This is not like the criminal system where everybody gets a public defender or has a right to free counsel. Immigrants in detention or outside of detention, everyone has a right to seek an attorney, but that doesn't mean the government will provide you one for free.
We need the lawyer for things we cannot do by ourselves. If you're applying for a work permit, you can't do it without a lawyer. You can't go to a court hearing without legal representation. So it's like your whole case is at a standstill without a lawyer.
That really becomes an issue is if you're detained, because if you don't speak English, how in the world are you going to know where to call, who to reach out to, what to say, who to trust when you're detained? How are you going to find a lawyer?
My name is Jacob Musafiri, and I come from Uganda, East Africa. I came to the US in 2021, and I've been here 3 years. So when I came here in the year 2021, I was detained at McHenry County Jail. In detention, I was stranded. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to go to, because it happens at a time when you're done with your asylum interview. So when you pass your interview, then you're eligible for parole. So I was eligible by 3 weeks of being in the detention. But I didn't leave detention until 5 weeks, because those 2 weeks, I didn't have where to go.
These proceedings, though, are civil in nature. They're not criminal. And the distinction or the significance of that is that under the Constitution, Sixth Amendment, criminal case, you have a right to counsel, whereas in civil cases, you don't. So what happens in immigration cases is that sometimes people end up being unrepresented.
I reached out to fellow inmates, and they told me about different organizations that, help immigrants that don't have where to go. And that's how I got to know about ICDI. And so I called a number that was on there, and then one of the case managers picked up. And I told them about my situation, my case, and my story. And then they told me that's what they do. They rescue immigrants like me that don't have anywhere to go.
It's really moving to receive someone walking out of jail. It's like they're coming back from death. I mean, they're just waking up and coming to you. And then they still need support, but it really is hard to leave that experience and just say, well, okay, I'm done.
Detained cases are programmed to go faster. That's because the person's in detention, so from their perspective, you don't want them sitting longer than they have to, one way or the other. And from the government perspective, they're being detained at government expense, so they want to move things faster. They're on a much faster track than non-detained cases, which could last years, given how swollen the court's dockets are.
Out of the detention, it's really a long time that we wait for to get any approval for anything. From the green card applications, work permit applications, the asylum interviews themselves, the court hearings, everything takes forever to ever happen.
When I became an immigration judge in 1990, there were only 78 immigration judges nationwide. There weren't that many cases. Today, my understanding is there's over 600 immigration judges, and in terms of how many cases are currently pending with the court, well over 1 million. There are all kinds of different rules too in terms of who can be let into the country, even if they're not permanent.
United States policy for the refugees population is they call it self-sufficiency. Become independent as soon as possible.
I remember it took 5 to 6 months to get my work permit. So that means that whole time you're not working.
Some people come here simply to support their families, as immigrants have done for decades, right? Hundreds of years. Unfortunately, there is no such thing as a work permit standing alone. Permission to work in the United States is tied to applying for something.
Even if you want to get the public benefits, you cannot be eligible to get public benefits if you are not looking for a job.
Someone doesn't have to be unemployed for months, pending an application. At least there should be a provision for, temporary employment. because we need the income. We have the bills to pay. We have families back home to take care of. We have, responsibilities.
There have been special pieces of legislation that have kind of expedited the process and also provided for a quicker way to apply for and to obtain employment authorization. So that's all good, but it's all kind of a piecemeal kind of basis.
The immigration court does provide lists to people who are detained of here are, the 5 nonprofit organizations in this area that might be able to help you. Maybe they can provide you with a free attorney. But of, those 5 organizations, they're all slammed.
All these service providers, nonprofits, resettlement agencies, they cannot provide their services to the population because these agencies are grant-based and the grants are so restricted. Some agencies, they do their best to provide some pro bono, without any reimbursement from the government, but our hands are tied. Nobody can provide services to the population.
There has been a gross disparity between enforcement funding and funding for the courts. The courts have always been woefully underfunded.
It's up to the government. They can change, the grant allocation.
Congress is not willing to act for the most part, so a lot of our laws, many of which are very difficult to navigate, remain in place.
It's like they try to make it so hard for anyone trying to migrate to the US to discourage you.
So I think one thing that can sometimes keep people from stepping in and deciding to take on an immigration case pro bono or from helping a migrant family find housing or whatever it is, some people will find the work is too intimidating, it seems too overwhelming, the problem is too big, like I can't fix all of it.
These organizations, the work that they do, it is very instrumental because as a client that has gone through different organizations and I've seen how much they help, it is so much that they're doing for immigrants like me. It is life-changing.
Chicago is big enough for everyone. This country is big enough for everyone. So as an individual, as a US citizen, as human beings, we need to remind ourselves who we are. This is our responsibility to welcome them, to give them a chance to live next to us. Diversity is our strength, diversity is our power.
Something that I keep in mind for myself is that I am just one part of their story. It's a chain of people and circumstances and scenarios and a chain of helpers. And I'm just one part of that chain. I'm one link in that chain, but I'm not the whole story.
Having been here the 3 years, I feel like this is the best place I could ever come to. I've found different organizations that have really helped me out. They have really taken me in and provided me with all I need. They bring so much hope to us, and we appreciate them so much. And to all immigrants out there that, that want to immigrate to the US, even those that are losing hope, I want to tell them that they shouldn't lose the hope. There is help out here, and they'll make it.